And we are live here to chat about tonight's episode of Arrow, which was season 7, episode 19, entitled Spartan. It's like we're going through each of the characters and having a character-focused episode leading into the finale, which is nice. I like that. Leading into what's kind of almost the series finale, because the next season's only 10 episodes and won't have a lot of these characters in it, including the main focus character from tonight, which was Diggle. David Ramsey won't be around for next season. Someone correct me if I'm wrong about that, by the way, because after mentioning that last week, I couldn't find whatever article it was I'd written about that, but I know he posted about it on Twitter. Anyways, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he won't be around, or he won't be around as much in the final 10 episodes, which are going to be starkly different from this anyways. And tonight's episode was focused on him. That's the title, Spartan. And we get some really interesting insight into his family, which we haven't got in a while, which was fun. We got to see his stepdad. We had to learn a little bit about his family as well, that John had always grown up thinking that his father was a hero and kind of hating his stepdad for teaching him survival skills. And then it turns out his stepdad was kind of covering for his father and letting John think that his father was a hero when he actually wasn't, and protecting his memory. And we kind of unpack some of his baggage. And that's I would say that's the A storyline from tonight. The B storyline is the ongoing storyline of Felicity and Archer. And Archer gets stolen, and Felicity self-destructs it. I think Elena might have recovered it in the process. And the C storyline is the flash forwards, where we learn about what you guys are already talking about in the chat, Matt Shyamalan, tell me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, about JJ. We have not one but 2 sons of Diggle in the future, and one of them is leading the Deathstroke Initiative, which I found really interesting. And I know I'm not the only one who suddenly came up with a whole host of theories about our future kids playing around there in the future. We now have not 3 but 4, right? Because we've got Connor, Mia, and William. I almost forgot his name there for a second. William, the least relevant. I'm kidding. I love William. And now we have JJ. We haven't really got to see him much, but yeah, Stormy clarifies she thinks JJ is not Deathstroke. He's just within Deathstroke or leading Deathstroke. Matt Shyamalan was wondering if JJ actually is Deathstroke. Carrie Johnson says it took a whole 7 years to get to Diggle's daddy story. He's basically Jon Stewart. Make him Green Lantern already. Yes, we've got all of the Jon Stewart name drops in this episode. They're really teasing the Green Lantern thing, which is awesome and exciting, but it's unfortunate, as Carrie said, that it took this long, because we could have seen Diggle's Green Lantern far before this. I don't know the specifics of who kind of owns the rights to using that. It may be more of a movie thing and not a TV thing, and maybe that's why they can't say that, and that's why they can't say Suicide Squad, or not Suicide Squad, but yeah, they can't say Suicide Squad, and so they're saying like whatever it was that they were saying instead. I don't know, whatever. Stormy says, I'm sure one of Slade's messed up in the head kids will show up too. Yes, I would love to see Slade's kids and JJ. What was Slade's son's name? Who remembers that? Slade had an adult son, was the thing. So I don't know if he has a kid as well, but I feel like they teased the idea in the comics that Slade had a kid, or someone had a kid with Shadow. So that's another potential kid they could play with showing up. Like maybe make it as if Slade and Shadow had a kid that was hidden off somewhere. I don't know. There are options. There are things they could do to populate a spinoff if they put their mind to it. Stormy says Slade had 2 sons, Joe and Grant. Yes, that's right. Um, Stormy says she gives this episode a 4 out of 5. What do the rest of you give this episode? Scale from 1 to 5, 1 being you didn't like it, 5 being you loved it. What are you rating this? I would rate this as well. I'm right there with Stormy. I'd give it a 4, maybe 4.2. I think that this was a excellent episode, and my main complaint is that it just took far too long to get here. Every storyline from tonight, whether it be the Emiko movement and her going after Dante, but also still after Oliver, and she's now anti-everybody or whatever. I was watching that, and I think I tweeted this a second ago too. It just feels like the kind of story that I would have loved to have seen in like season 4. It took ages to get here. Likewise, Diggle unpacking his past family story and how he is, who he is, and where his sort of moral code and compass comes from. All of that I would have liked to see unpacked earlier so that we could have eventually got to the place where they could tease Green Lantern and it's more than just also we're a couple episodes from the finale. Not like, I would like to see that. But Stormy says Alina is a backstabbing rat. I'm not into that at all. Poor Felicity. Yeah, I mean, I like the dynamic between Alina and Felicity. I like the complex, I don't want to say layered nature of their morality, because I think that there's a clear, unarguable lack of morality that Alina sometimes has / shows, but Alina's very driven, and she is hyper focused on achieving whatever it is she needs to achieve. She just doesn't have split vision on things, and sometimes she doesn't see the whole picture. But I think we've all met people like that. Like, that's a realistic kind of person to be, and it's not that it's that she could make a great villain, she could make a great hero, she could make a great anti-hero, whatever it is she's after. If she was ever trying to be bad, she'd be really good at being bad. If she was ever trying to be good, she'd be really good at being good. She's that hyper-focused person. You want her on your side. Like, I would want Alina on my side. And she was on Felicity's side for the longest time, and now I don't think she is. And so while I'm obviously Team Felicity, I still would love to see Alina continue to be an interesting character. I think she's the closest thing to a formidable foe as well that Felicity's had in a long time. They made reference tonight to the fact that, characters like Ray Palmer weren't even a match for her. So I think Alina could be, and I would rather see her be a friend and see a sisterhood. But at the same time, in a cutthroat world like that, it's completely possible that you get as far as you get, and then eventually your goals cross. Matt Shamalo says, I give it a 3 just because I feel like I have no idea what's going on with Emiko. I feel like there's so much more to happen with the story because it started late. But with Dante dead, I'm confused. Dante, I feel like, was just hyped up so that they could retroactively hype up whoever it is that takes him down. Kind of like what they did with Kate and James. They made Kate and James seem, really strong and indestructible so that they could bring Dragon in. I'm just going to untangle my hair. So that they could bring Dragon in and have him be just that much more scary and impressive and all the things that he wasn't, because he took down Kate and James and took over Kate and James's team. That's what they were trying to do. It obviously didn't work for Dragon. I'm not so sure it's working for Dante either. I think they're a few seasons late and $1 short on Emiko. Although she's doing a fantastic job, and the storyline's a really great idea. It's just so late to be integrating a storyline like this that it just seems, it's not even so much that it seems like a carbon copy of other things, because it's a superhero show. Of course things are going to be carbon copies of each other. It's that it seems like they don't have enough time to go through it, and there's a million other things that we're focused on instead right now that we're just sitting through it like, oh, okay, I wonder what's going to happen with this story, but let's get back to the characters that I do care about, which is unfortunate because I think we could have cared a lot about Emiko if she was just introduced earlier. Let's see. Carrie agrees Alina shady. Mr. Worldwide asks, have you ever hit a guy in the testicles? What an interesting question. Thank you, Mr. Worldwide, for sharing that. I'll let anybody who wants to answer that feel free to chime in. Stormy says, Felicity wants a legacy outside of Overwatch, and I love that. Aside from Mia, I want her to have a fantastic legacy. Yeah, I would like for Felicity to have a legacy outside of Team Arrow, outside of Overwatch, outside of her kids. You know, like she's brilliant, and she's going to be this world-renowned sort of like tech inventor slash whatever. And that's what I think. It's not even just me rooting for Felicity and saying that's what she deserves. I want the best for her. It's also just realistic as well. She's a genius. She should be a world-renowned techie, inventory. You know what I mean? Stormy says Dante is like Dragon, except I can understand him when Dante speaks. An interesting and valuable distinction between the two of them. So what were you guys' pros and cons from tonight's episode? What were the scenes that were your favorite, standing out in your mind as like most important, most interesting, most whatever? And then what were the scenes that you were bored and sleeping through and got up to go get a drink or whatever and didn't care about it at all? I think the scene for me that stood out. So there were a couple. One was the scene in the beginning when Diggle was telling Oliver about how he grew up seeing his stepdad as, awful because he saw his dad as a hero and he was mad at his stepdad for not being able to save his dad and then marrying his mother and, just being kind of a hard ass, I guess he puts it. He did such a good job with the emotion in that scene. I thought that was really good. Even though, later come to find out that a lot of what he thought was true was not true. It was such a good setup and an interesting part in the episode. I think a difficult part in the episode to have an emotional, connective sort of scene. I don't know. But he did a great job with that. Let's see. Stormy says, I love Dig with his stepdad. Loved Oliver's talk with Dig about his stepdad. Loved the chemistry with Mia and Connor. Felicity's always fantastic. A good list. So you mentioned Mia and Connor. Love them. Am I the only one? And don't shoot me for saying this. I'm so sorry. I don't want to speak bad things into existence. Am I the only one who's watching this show waiting for JJ to show up and being like, so they're going to do a love triangle between JJ and Mia and Connor and Mia, right? Tell me I'm not the only one who's thought that. You all thought it too. And if you haven't thought it before, you thought it now when I just said it. Because this is the CW. And they've got one good brother, one evil brother, and then an anti-hero-y, edgy girl who was previously with the girl brother. This is the CW. This is their formula. Is it just me? Let me know. Stormy says a con from this episode is Emiko. She's just a character with messy writing. I don't get her at all. I'm wondering if the writers even do. I think they're all over the place with Emiko because they're really trying to salvage this and do something with it because they can't really just it's not just a villain or something that they could just kill off and pretend it never happened. It's Oliver's half-sister and they really wrote themselves in this corner where they got to do something with her, but what? In the chat, I could see a love triangle. Much like her dad, she would have a triangle with siblings. Yeah. It'd be interesting. I really like Mia with JJ. I think they're fun. I think they've got fantastic chemistry, great writing, perfect casting. They're great. But they're going to bring JJ in and have there be a love triangle, aren't they? Aren't they? They are. Let's see. Yeah, with Emiko, sorry, getting back to that because I kind of jumped off that real quick. With Emiko, it's just a matter of ending it in a way that makes sense and not keeping her around past this season. But at the same time, this is really the last season, so it's like they had two potential spin-offs out of this season. They could go the Emiko route or they could go the Mia Smoke route. And it's so painfully clear that obviously the kids from the future are what everybody cares about and is interested in. And Emiko is just, it was a swing and a miss. A good swing. They really tried it, but they got to stop swinging there and wrap it up. And because we're so close to the end of the season, it's going to wrap up in the finale. So we're going to have to keep sitting through this. Carrie says, yeah, Mia did say the Deathstrokes was a crew she'd like to run with, so she could fall for JJ. See? I'm telling you, it's going to happen. We won't like it. We won't like it. We're going to hate the fact that it's going to be some sort of sibling love triangle again. We're going to hate it the way we hate all CW love triangles, but it's going to happen. Just like how I hate the fact my hair is tangled right now. Yeah, I'm interested to see also just what the Deathstroke crew looks like in the future beyond the little bits and pieces that we've seen. I'm interested to see if there's sort of a, like the future is all about bringing in these sort of legacies of our key characters. And Slade was always such a key villain with Arrow. I'm interested to see how his quote unquote legacy is kind of wrapped up in this Deathstroke crew. Stormy says, I just don't get Emiko's hatred for Oliver. Like, okay, your dad was a jerk who favored Oliver. That's not Oliver's fault, and he's trying to pay for sins he didn't commit. Oliver is often trying to pay for sins he didn't commit, but in this particular case, it's one of the most frustrating versions of him paying for sins he didn't commit, because it's sins he didn't commit, and we also don't know that much about. Like, we know that Emiko's trying to avenge her mother, and beyond that, like, there's no buy-in, there's no investment. It's like, some really tragic stuff happened that really in no way has to do with Oliver. And he's like, oh, I must pay for the sins of my father. And it's like, it's not even that clearly directly linked to his father as well. Like, his father was a jerk who abandoned some people and then bad stuff happened to them. And it's like, his father's done his father was literally like complicit to murder in many ways and cases. This is not like some new shocking revelation that his dad was bad. His dad is bad, his mom was bad, pretty much everybody he grew up with was bad. Like, he's surrounded by terrible people and has done a lot of terrible things himself. Like, a lot of this is like portrayed as if it's supposed to be shocking, and it's really not shocking in any way. Anyways, sorry, we're down to the last 2 minutes. We'll need to rein that all in, and I would like to hear what you guys would like to see in the last 3 episodes. I can't believe there's only 3 more left. Really, only 3 more left of Arrow proper. What would you like to see wrapped up and addressed in the final 3 episodes of Arrow? Stormy says, I think at this point I'm just tired of Oliver continuing to pay for Robert's sin. When is enough enough? Yeah, like, have Oliver pay for Oliver's sins. He's done a lot of bad things. Like, he can continue to feel guilty about his own stuff if he really wants to until they get tired of it. But him feeling guilty for his father's crimes really just doesn't make sense, and kind of, if anything, de-emphasizes the things he could feel bad about. Like, he, as recent as last season, took a position of power that he wasn't ready or prepared for and continually used it to cover up crimes that his friends committed and misuse city funds, all for good purposes, all because he wanted to do good, but he did bad things in order to do good. He can feel bad about that if he wants. Stormy says 3 more episodes with Felicity. My heart just hurts with that. I'm so not ready. Yeah, I'm really sad about Felicity leaving. I understand it. I'm not upset. Like at Emily or anything. Like, the show's ending, everybody's leaving, it's fine. But I'm sad that we get so few episodes left. But I'm happy we had so many seasons with her. And I hope they sort of do her justice in the wrap up. But trying not to even like get expectations one way or the other of how they'll handle it or what they'll do. But yeah. Carrie says Emiko is basically season 1 Oliver without Felicity, just set him on a hero path. Emiko needs Renee in that role. I can't believe I said that either. You want Renee to be the hero whisperer, Carrie? You would trust him to do that? I feel like that's That's kind of what they're going for. Renee's going to be the one to pull her back in. Thus, I think all along they kind of wanted Renee to be the leader of the spinoff. I mean, they have him as mayor in the future, and then in present day they have him as like the tie-in for Emiko. So I think they're really going, like, part of my language, balls to the walls, trying to get Renee integrated into this team and into the spinoffs. I think capital they, like the powers that be, CW Arrow, really thinks like they could put all their eggs in the Renee basket. Maybe the actor is like fantastic and I'm just not really buying into the character and thus missing how fantastic the actor is or something. I know he's got like, I think he's got a decent filmography or something. For some reason, they're really into this like Renee thing. And I used to be way more against it. Right now, I'm just sort of like, really, Renee? But like he used to be obnoxious, like straight up, I would consider him a villain. And now he's just sort of like there, kind of hit or miss, like kind of an entirely new character we have to meet because they basically rewrote his past character, which is fine because I hated his past character. But at this point, it's just sort of Renee. Really, that's who we're going to try to base our all our hopes and spinoffs around, and team leadership. Really. Anyways, on that note, thank you for hanging out with me for 20 minutes after the episode to talk about Arrow, and I look forward to next week, entitled Confessions, episode 20. We've only got 3 more left. You can always find me on Twitter or any social media site if you want to chat about Arrow or any other show that I watch or just whatever. It's at Cami and Ray. Information's in the description below. Talk to you next week. Bye.